about the closest you come to dancing is kata, but kata is very practical when you use it as a shadow boxing and learning your techniques. Because I studied
Mhm.
Shotokan karate for quite some time, but I also trained in capoeira. Now capoeira is a different uh, it's a different mindset because it was a different origin.
Mhm.
Whereas you have your karate was in a very harsh time. Your modern karate is more, 100, years old,
Mhm.
but it was rooted in Okinawan fighting because way back when, Japanese people weren't as polite as they are today. There was a lot of fighting going on.
Yeah.
And everybody from the samurai down to the villagers had to learn how to fight.
Mhm.
This uh, but that is where the karate came from. Is they had to use their empty hands
Yep.
against stronger fighters, and so that was that. But capoeira was something completely different. This was in the days of slavery. You know, Slavery was all over the world. I mean, Europeans were taken as slaves into Africa, and then Africans were taken into the West as slaves. But would but the history of slavery in Africa. The uh, East India Trading Company go
Mhm.
way over to the Ashanti on the West Coast and say, "We've got gold. What have you got?" And they say, "Oh, we've got slaves." So slavery was sent over, and out of Angola, some of those were sent to Brazil.
Mhm.
And in Brazil, they were forced to work in harsh conditions and this type of thing. Well, they wanted a way to fight back against their slave masters,
Mhm.
but they couldn't practice fighting without getting caught. So they disguised it. They played it as a game,
Mhm.
but it was done to music like a dance.
Wow.
But they're actually practicing deadly kicks and all this stuff. But whenever the slave master saw them, they'd be like, "Yeah, they're letting loose. It makes them better workers." Okay,
Mhm.
not even realizing that they were getting ready to kill their slave masters and their uprising. There
Wow.
actually was an uprising where a lot of these slaves got beat their masters, and got free, and they formed these colombos, which
Mhm.
are these communities of freed slaves. And so that was off of capoeira, and capoeira even though Brazil ended slavery in 1888, they were one of the last countries to do it.
Mhm.
Uh, Capoeira was still illegal. It was still, you know, the street mafia type of thing up until the 1930s with Minister Bemba, who went before the Sporting Council and got it to labeled as an official sport, which then legalized it. And so it's developed and spread since then. So it's not as much a practical martial art as it is a fun one.
Mhm.
It's just so fun to do. It's a game, it's a dance, it's singing, it's clapping, so it gets you in shape, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I brought up empty hand, which is literally what karate translates
Hmm.
to. Brings to mind one as someone who studied Japanese in part because of my studying karate. Um, the word karaoke is the same kara as in karate. Listen to this and much more on This Podcast is Uncalled For. Available now wherever you podcast.